Despite its many successes and failings, Fallout has always managed to deliver on its storytelling. Whether environmental or directly fed to you, through holotapes, notes, speech, or even just with detritus around you, you will always manage to find some kind of story there. But the most fascinating is always those pre-war, as well as those that come just after the war. From corporate greed to global infections that the American government managed to spin a tale of propaganda, wrongful imprisonments, and so many more different types of stories, there is a wealth of information to unfold. With this, however, there comes a divergence within our histories. Our history split off just after the Second World War, where we learned to produce nuclear weapons. In the Fallout universe, they managed to power the world with their nuclear energy. If you were able to evade the corporate greed, the plagues, and if you held the right beliefs, you would be subject to the perfect world, provided you could keep up with the inflation rates. You could live with robot butlers, white picket fences, and you could have, if you'll pardon the pun, the nuclear family. Everything was perfect for these residents of America. At least, until...
I love you. Both of you.
We love you too.
Oh my God!
Hold on!
Move faster!
Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!
The 1960s were a crazy time. It was a time of absolute medical breakthroughs, with the first heart transplant being made, with the introduction of the first ever birth control pill. It was also a time of scientific breakthrough. During this time, the United States and Russia were in the midst of their space race, and Apollo 11 managed to land on the moon. It saw new presidents, it saw generation-inspiring speeches, and it also sadly saw 2 assassinations of very important figureheads in history. And even the small town of Point Pleasant couldn't escape the 1960s blues. Point Pleasant is a small town located in the Kanawha County of West Virginia. It's a town with a long, rich history, but today we're going to focus solely in the 1960s and the reports of possibly its biggest figurehead first coming to life. Now, if you would like to skip to the part where we start speaking about Fallout, I will be leaving a time card in the description below so that you can skip right into that. In the mid to the late 1960s, the birth of a Mothman happened, sighted by 2 young couples in Point Pleasant on November 15th, 1966. Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette told the police that they'd seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red, standing at the side of a road near the TNT area, the site of a former World War II munitions plant. Linda had described it as a tall, muscular man standing about 7 feet tall with long white wings. With that said, she wasn't able to describe its face due to the hypnotic effects of its eyes. Understandably distressed by the situation they were in, they ended up speeding away. They reported that the creature had flown after their car, taking chase, making screeching sounds as it pursued them all the way as far as the Point Pleasant city limits. The following day, a newspaper report was published in the Point Pleasant Register titled "Couples See Man-Sized Bird, Creature, Something," which later gained national attention, and the story of the Mothman spread all the way across the United States. Over the following day, there were more reports of a Mothman being filed into the police. There were 2 volunteer firemen who saw it and said it was a large bird with red eyes. A contractor called Newell Partridge told the sheriff that when he aimed a flashlight at a creature in a nearby field, its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. On top of that, he blamed the buzzing noises in his TV and the disappearance of his German Shepherd on the Mothman. The buzzing noises could very easily be explained away due to the way that technology was back then, and the fact that televisions at that time were large, cumbersome machines. Now, the sheriff at the time, George Johnson, believed that the sightings were due to an unusually large heron, which he called a shitepoke. And I love that name. Later on, a wildlife biologist called Robert L. Smith ended up somewhat confirming Sheriff Johnson's beliefs. He told reporters that the descriptions of the sightings fit the sandhill crane, a large American crane almost as tall as a man as it is, with a 7-foot wingspan and a reddish colouring around its eyes. That would explain the red eyesight and the large stature. He further stated that the bird may have wandered out of its migration route and as such was unrecognised due to the fact that it was not native to the region. Many more reports were made of the Mothman over the following year. Some people had claimed that the Mothman was connected with aliens and other extraterrestrial beings, and others say that its nesting area was a TNT site. Additional to that, many sightings were very likely hoaxes. Some sightings were believed to be barred owls, suggesting that the Mothman's glowing eyes were actually the red eye effect caused from a reflection of light from flashlights or other bright light sources. Funnily enough, however, sightings of a Mothman still occur to this day, because while a theory was that it was a sandhill crane, there was never any confirmation. Additional to this, however, from the research that I have made, there were very few that actually likened it to being a moth or a moth-like creature. Many reports were actually of a humanoid creature with bird-like features and long wings. All of the reports, however, between November 15th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967 were later likened to a tragedy that struck Point Pleasant. This tragedy was a collapse of the Silver Bridge. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge, amidst the heavy rush hour traffic, collapsed. In this collapse, 46 people sadly lost their lives, 2 of which were never found. Investigation of the wreckage showed that there was a failure of a single eye bar in the suspension chains being the primary cause. This finding was documented in a preliminary report released within 10 months of the collapse. However, to actually explain why it failed, a much more in-depth investigation had to take place, with the final accident report taking 3 years to complete. In its stead, the collapsed bridge was replaced by the Silver Memorial Bridge, which completed construction in 1969. The Mothman, for believers, was widely blamed to be the foreshadower of the Silver Bridge collapse. But what do you think? If this creature is to be real, and it was the foreshadower of this event, do you believe it was there to watch the event unfold, or to try to ward people away from it? Both of these theories are believed amongst those who believe in the Mothman. In 1975, author John Keel published a book called The Mothman Prophecies. In this book, it relates Keel's accounts of his own investigation into the sightings of the Mothman, with his own theories about UFOs and various supernatural phenomena, where he also connects them to the collapse of a silver bridge. Later, in 2002, a movie was made of the same name. Later sightings had reported that the Mothman had somehow made his way across the world. There were sightings of a Mothman as far as Moscow in Russia, which were later said to have been the foreshadowing of the 1999 Russian apartment bombings. It seemed anywhere that the Mothman was seen, tragedy and death would soon follow. In more recent years, the Mothman has been seen to be more of a mascot for the people of Point Pleasant. Now the face of the annual Mothman Festival, first hosted in 2002, the Mothman seems to be a large source of tourism for Point Pleasant. In essence of this festival, a 12-foot metallic statue of the Mothman, created by an artist and sculptor called Bob Roach, was created in 2003. Later, the Mothman Museum and Research Center would open in 2005. The event is still held on the third weekend of every September, so if anyone wants to, you should go check it out. Now, before we move on to the Fallout side of things, if you would like to see more videos where I just talk about the locations without their correlation with Fallout, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure that it happens. As we move into the Fallout universe, we find that Point Pleasant remains somewhat the same, almost as though, for Point Pleasant, the world remained the same. The Mothman statue still stands tall. The Mothman Museum still exists. It's almost as though those encounters happened in the exact same way. The only differences are of course the things that would have happened immediately as the bombs dropped and post-war. All around the roofs of Point Pleasant, there are boards setting out walkways so that people could walk along the rooftops, likely to defend the place from incoming raiders and other threats. The bridge, however, it would seem that history just repeated itself. We don't know if this is the Silver Bridge or the Silver Memorial Bridge. However, it is once more collapsed. Dotted around the rooftops, you can also find corpses of responders as well as some notes left behind from survivors. However, there's not much detailing what actually happened with Point Pleasant. Instead, the closest thing that we get to that are the few cultists that come a couple of weeks throughout the year. These cultists are a part of the occasional event that would come up called the Mothman Equinox, an event where you make sacrifices to the wise Mothman and fend off other cultists that these ones know as the Dim Ones. Now, more information on the Dim Ones will be provided in a later video. However, let's focus on these cultists as they can give us an insight as to how they can serve the Mothman. While participating in the Equinox, you will find that their leader, Clarence, has more of an in-depth knowledge of the Mothman and knows exactly how to please the Mothman. This is evidenced by the things he will say to you during the event. Have a listen.
The ritual site had been prepared. The summoning shall commence once each of the pyres has been lit. Go, ignite the flames as I release the dust of our wise one into the air. Ah, yes. The flames of our pyres ignite the moth dust. It offers enlightenment, however brief it may be. Breathe, children. Breathe. See the world now through his eyes, children. Let the dust and flames and fumes fill you. Let it soak into your throats. Let it show you the truth. ones will be enraged by this vision. The reality of our wise one will send them into a frenzy. You must protect our sacred lights, the pyres, from those wretched fiends. Without the fire's glow, our guest may refuse our invitation. The dim ones approach the church. Slay them, children. Offer no quarter. The bridge's pyre is the heretic's next target, children. You must keep it safe. The heretics bring foul brutes with them. Let not your eyes deceive you. All you see before you must die. No matter its shape, man or beast, these twisted shadows all serve the will of the false ones. The foul dim ones are headed toward the waterside pyre, children. You must protect it. These unwavering fools attack from all sides. Leave no pyre unguarded. Leave no heretic left standing. Do you feel it? The wise one draws near. He awaits our signal. Quickly, children. Return to me upon the museum's rooftop. We must invite him to us, to show him our love and our gratitude. Dance, sing, shout, expel bile from your gut. Wise Mothman, you have accepted our invitation. We are eager insects before your intellect. Come, children. Allow the wise one to gaze upon you. Bask in his infinite wisdom.
Now, if you weren't able to hear over Clarence's culty goodness, he gives you a few objectives. To start with, you need to clear the vines from the pyres, and then you need to break all of the totems left by the dim ones, kill all of the albino radstags that you see wandering around to harvest their blood, and kill the cultist prophets that happen to be around the town. After this, you need to light the pyres that you've just freed and defend them from the dim ones. After you've completed all of these tasks, Clarence will invite you to the roof of the Mothman Museum, whereby once you've done enough emotes, dancing around, all that good stuff, a wise Mothman will come down. Now you'll see with this Mothman, it is nothing like the real life descriptions of it. This Mothman does not appear avian-like at all, and in fact wholly resembles a moth. There is no humanoid figure to be found. Upon interacting with this Mothman, it will flutter its wings and bestow upon you the blessings of the Mothman. This will give you just a temporary experience boost for anything that you do out in the wastes. Now, these cultists don't really talk all too much, but if you go into the church of Point Pleasant, you will find in 2 glass cases 6 books, which are all of the teachings of this cult. I will read from them in one continuous passage and tell you exactly what they say. Catechism of Wise Hilary the Scourge, as transcribed by Interpreter Jill. Time and again has the wise Mothman come, and time and again the ignorant heard not the message he bore. They were deaf to his whispers, seeing only a monster, a spectre filling them with dread from a world they could not understand. The ignorant heard of his passing and believed not the witnesses, naming him a figment of delusional minds. Yet the wise Mothman was no emissary from other realms, nor was he a hallucination of the senses. Time and again has the wise Mothman come, and time and again fools and dullards heard his whisper, yet understood it not. They were closed to his message, hearing only the echo of their own small minds bouncing within their skulls. The dim ones named him God and fell to their knees, calling themselves chosen. Yet the wise Mothman was no skyborn deity, nor had he come to anoint them elect. Time and again has a wise Mothman come, and time and again the mad and twisted have rejected his message. They were attuned to other whispers, hearing the call of a thing beyond, drawn to the deep places of the earth for inhuman purpose. The broken heard the song of the interloper and turned from the truth, scorning wisdom as a product of mere mortals in favour of the unknowable. Yet the wise Mothman remains with us, and his truth shields us from the call. Wise Mothman whispered, and wise Charles heard and understood. He guarded us from the flood and the fire, and while others fell, we endured. While the dim ones succumbed to the delusion of holiness, we witnessed truth. While the mad were called to their chthonic master, we spurned the slavery of the unliving. We are the enlightened, and we know these things to be true. The wise Mothman is among us, and of us. The wise Mothman lives. We feel his breath and hear the beat of his wings, and know that he is more alike to us than not. The wise Mothman comes to us and shares with us his truth. The wise Mothman has found his truth through understanding the world as it is, and through observation we approach his understanding. His truth is a lesson. His truth is a warning. His truth is a path to enlightenment. And we thank the wise Mothman who shares his truth with us, and reject the falseness of ignorant deniers, dull idolaters, and warp-minded servitors. We observe, we interpret, we listen to his whispers, and become wise. Sayings of Interpreter Alicia, as recorded by Observer James. The wise Mothman is. The wise Mothman was. The wise Mothman will be. Before the flood, before the fire, before the dim ones. The wise Mothman saw what its brethren could not, and the truth was known. The wise Mothman sees not, for he has gifted his vision to you. The wise Mothman flies not on wings, for his truth has lifted you up. The wise Mothman bears no heart, for his beats inside the breast of all who listen. The dim ones heard his message, and it filled them with fear. They cowered and prayed and made of him a god. But this was not his truth. But some listened and understood, and they had no fear and became wise. The wise in turn bore this truth to us, and we listen, and scorn the dim ones who rejected the gift. We gather to witness the works and truth of the wise Mothman. Glorious Mothman, presage of doom, herald of salvation. We stand ready for your truth. As your wisdom has cracked wide the knowing of all things, so too shall we transcend the limits of human understanding. Students of your gentle teaching. The ignorant are always welcome among us, for ignorance is the beginning of enlightenment. The ignorant may learn and hear, and in so doing, the truth becomes known to them. Yet they may struggle to understand. So do the ignorant learn to observe and watch for his signs, that they may return to the fold, bearing witness and add to our awareness of his truth. Having observed, they may come to understand and learn to interpret what has been witnessed, and share this understanding with all of us. In the interpretation of what has been observed, we may all be fellows to the wise Mothman, and bearers of his truth. Exodus of the Enlightened, as told to Interpreter Michaela by Wise Pearl and the Augur. It came to pass that the worshippers of a pretender Mothman, Wise Charles then being among their number, did attempt to summon the Mothman and receive his glory. Charles alone heard the whispers of the wise Mothman, and bore his warning of fire and flood, and guided his brethren to safety in the Lucky Hole mine. The mine sheltered the Mothman's faithful through the apocalypse, but there they turned to darker worship, and the time came for wise Charles to see past the visions of the dim ones, to the greater truth, bestowed by the wise Mothman. Some listened and heard, and when they could no more bear the corruption and falsehoods of those who were once their brethren, the enlightened left behind the lies of a deceiver. The world was wild and dark, and many horrors awaited the enlightened in the lands outside the safety of the mine. Dark beasts and strange pestilence stalked the land, and some among the enlightened fell to their knees, crying, "What has become of our home? Why have we survived when all is lost? Are we forsaken?" They called out to Charles to return to the mine and reject the truth, saying there was nothing for them here. Wise Charles smiled upon them, and the light of a Mothman's wisdom shone as he spoke to them, saying there was safety beyond the hills they had known. A lantern awaited them, a beacon of safety, and a home for those that had heard the truth and been enlightened. A lantern awaited them, a beacon of safety, and a home for those that had heard the truth and been enlightened. He would guide them, and they would fear neither beast nor plague, and would pass beyond the reach of the dim ones and the influence of a pretender, the deceiver. So did the enlightened journey from the bounds of a West Virginia that was, into the lands untouched by the scorched plague. There they founded their church, naming it the Lantern, as had been foreseen. Its light shines in darkness, a symbol of a truth no shadow can conquer. And it calls to the wise Mothman, wherever he may be, telling him, "Here are those who hear your truth." Long may the lantern shine against the ignorance of the world, and never may the dim ones and the falsehoods of the red-eyed pretender snuff out its beacon. Observations, Volume 27. Annotations by Interpreter Walsh. Woods, Ohio. Past midnight. Gibbous moon. The howl of wolves is quieted by the wind-stirring flutter of tremendous wings. Silence settles over the forest, and I sleep unafraid. As the lesser creatures tame the ferocity under the calming influence of a wise Mothman, so too should we cultivate tranquility. Deserted town, Virginia. Galax. Sign damaged. Dusk. Waning crescent just above the horizon. Waning crescent just above horizon. In silhouette against the dying sun. Purple orbs shine from a shadow. I am certain it's no longer safe. Must find new shelter. The wise Mothman oft appears to guide those with eyes to see and ears to listen. He is without malice, but in his wake travels darkness and danger. Mountain Trail, Tennessee. Late afternoon. Storm clouds. A shadow passes overhead. Gone before I can see it. The wind carries a fine grey powder, which clings to my face and hair. As students of his wisdom, we must remind ourselves that not everything is a lesson. The dim ones would rave about the holy blessing of his dust. We remember, he is wise, but he is also a moth. Highway, Virginia. Night, maybe an hour past full dark. New moon, sitting at a campfire. I hear the beat of his wings, and the sound of him alight behind me. I know he is not here to be seen, and I remain facing the fire. He whispers, and I see forests I have not walked. I awake with no memory of his departure, the sun rising in the east. Not all students can bear his truth when heard directly, and not all knowledge can be understood when learned. We hear his message and our mind opens, but only when we are ready do we know its meaning. Watoga, West Virginia, nearly dawn. Moon had set. I saw the wise Mothman eat a robo-brain. I was hiding in one of those porta-potty jobs, and the robo-brain was shooting all kinds of holes in it, and then the wise Mothman swooped down out of nowhere and just stuffs a whole robo-brain into his mouth bits. Then he says, "It's all good, Dave," and flies away. Observer Dave has once again fallen prey to the lure of chems. Dave, not the wise Mothman, unwittingly teaches us a lesson here. On the thesis of Dr. Wallace, as told by wise Martin the Bearded. Our benighted brethren among the dim ones, even in their misguided worship of a pretender, seek to know their false god better by increasing their understanding of him as a natural phenomenon. They make of him a supernatural being, yet they have clamoured and scrabbled for the writings of those who, like us, study the physical reality of the Mothman. So it was that the dim ones sought the lost manuscript of Dr. Wallace, an entomologist of some small repute, who wrote his doctoral thesis on the moths of the Appalachian region. The dim ones believed that these writings would unlock the mysteries of the Mothman and bring upon them a clarity and wisdom that even they understood they lacked. The knowledge of one's own ignorance is the beginning of wisdom, as Benjamin Franklin noted. Yet even from this knowledge, they reject the truth of a wise Mothman. They believed the thesis of Dr. Wallace would enlighten them when enlightenment was already there for those who would listen. The dim ones searched for his manuscript in the Kanawha County Cemetery, believing it entombed with him in the mausoleum there. Here we see the folly of their defecation of a red-eyed pretender. For why should an entomologist be buried with their thesis? The dim ones imagined a sacred relic of divine truth, worthy of veneration and a hallowed resting place. Yet Dr. Wallace was not of their number, and to him, the thesis was just another paper among many, notable only for securing his doctoral credentials. Those who would seek his thesis, unblinded by the beliefs of the dim ones, would be better served stalking the libraries of the institution which granted Dr. Wallace his degree. I expect it waits there, if it survived at all, mouldering unread among the hundreds of other student works. Perhaps it holds some small light that would help us understand the wise Mothman's truth, but it is as likely filled with little more than a study of ordinary moths. It is no grail awaiting a questing knight. The wise Mothman is here, and for those ready to listen, his truth is not hidden. False Gods of Appalachia, by wise Nathaniel the Shadowed. The wise Mothman calls the mountains and woods of Appalachia home. Yet the region is the haunt of other strangeness as well. These rolling hills are ancient beyond human comprehension, and what were once towering peaks to shame the Alps remain home to things likewise outside mortal experience. Many a credulous soul has attributed deific qualities to these things, as do the dim ones, and in so doing are deafened to the wise Mothman's truth. Here I catalogue some of these false gods, that the student of his wisdom may not be led into the temptation of dark mysteries, which bear within them no light of knowledge. The deceiver Mothman and his progeny. As the wise Mothman's eyes glow with the violet light of his wisdom, his unenlightened brethren's vision is cloaked in crimson. They and their spawn heed not the actions of humankind, nor care for us, making of us naught but prey and sport. The dim ones see them and think them gods, divine and sacred, and fall to the ground in obeisance. Be not deceived, student of truth. These fire-eyed Lepidoptera are neither god nor angel, and have no wisdom to share. The Flatwoods monster. Shun this accursed creature, dear student, should you cross paths with its haunting form. Let not its amaranthine glow fool you. It shares no kinship to the wise Mothman, and where his truth sets loose your mind from the fetters of falsehood, this hovering nightmare binds it. There is no wisdom to be found in such a being. Squatches of a diverse shape. Many tell tales of encounters with beast people in the wilds of Appalachia. Ape men of giant stature and foul stench. Hybrids of human and livestock, goat and ram. Even plants that walk and speak with vegetable minds, invading the thoughts of mortals. Some have observed these things, and we know them, but we likewise know that they are neither demon nor deity. Some have constructed totems to call or appease these creatures, and show themselves fools. A beast may come to food left to tempt it, or be frightened by a strange construction. This does not make it worthy of worship. The Interloper. We who would learn at the chitness knee of a wise Mothman, who hear his truth and observe the coming and going of him, must speak not of the Interloper. There is no fouler deceit than one garbed in truth. Shun its call, for it can bring only darkness. So it would seem the cultists are aware of multiple cryptids around the Appalachia area. However, one of these things stands out above all of the rest, the Interloper. Just what is this creature for it to be based on truth? If we go to an otherwise unremarkable house, only originally accessible by jumping onto a truck and onto a stairwell, we will find the house of a cryptid hunter, a man called Jeff Lane. In his house, he has a couple of news reports, one on the sheep squatch and one on the Mothman. But what we're most invested in is the holotape found in his room. Have a listen.
There are other things in this world now that cannot be explained. The end of the world has awoken something. We all know the Mothman is out there, stalking and watching us. But what of the unseen? There are things we can only glimpse in our minds. Great entities beyond our comprehension. The Mothman is a creature more like us than the unknowable horrors in the peripheral vision of our subconscious minds. No longer just a false memory now. I have heard a tale of this entity made real, deep in the earth. The storyteller was mad by any reckoning, but his story, no less true. My name is Jeff Lane, and I will lay bare this Watcher. No matter how deep I must go, I will come to know the true nature of the Interloper.
It's here, however, that the trail goes cold. Just as we start learning of the Interloper, we lose any information that might lead us somewhere. But maybe, just maybe, there's a clue within the cultist writings. But what is the Interloper, and where does it lie? Tune in again soon, and we'll find out together. So that video took a hell of a lot longer than expected. Honestly, reading out those teachings took so damn long. There was nothing but problems upon problems with this video, but I'll tell you what, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, especially reading that fourth teaching. That was insane, honestly. But on a serious note, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure that you're liking, subscribing, and commenting. And again, let me know if you would like to see more videos just on the history of different locations. Because honestly speaking, I really love doing the research and getting to know the history of places. So if you really enjoy that style of video, just let me know in the comments and I'll make sure that it happens. Additional to that, I do also stream on Twitch, so make sure that you're going over there and following. Make sure that you're going over to my TikTok and following, because we've got some TikToks coming up, and I really think you're going to enjoy the content. But other than that, make sure that you're checking out my previous videos. I've already done one on the Brotherhood of Steel, I've already done one on the Allegheny Asylum, and there's still a lot more yet to come. Stuff on the cultists, things on the Eldritch horrors, things on the prisons and other buildings, other towns, all that good stuff, all yet to come. So make sure that you keep tuning in, and I will leave the past two videos in cards either on the video or in the description. Thank you very much. Goodbye, my friends.